Would Hercules or Thor make a better Green Lantern? And when it comes to rage, is the Japanese thunder god Raijin more ferocious than the snake-headed vengeance of Medusa? Today, we're diving headfirst into mythologies from all over the world to assemble the ultimate Lantern Corps, picking gods, monsters, and legendary heroes to wield each of DC's Lantern Rings, with 3 ideal candidates for each. I'll cover the whole spectrum, plus the white and black cores of life and death. And be sure to stick around, I promise, you're about to learn not only about mythology, but some of its influences on your favorite anime and comic characters. Let's go. We're starting at the top of the spectrum with the Red Lanterns of Rage. The Red Lantern Corps burns with the primal fury of anger, pure, unfiltered hatred and malice. A red ring doesn't just boost your strength, it replaces your blood with burning plasma, allowing you to vomit streams of corrosive energy that can melt even the strongest constructs. Red Lanterns act on instinct and fury, lashing out without fear, mercy, or hesitation. They often lose themselves to their rage entirely, becoming berserkers, driven only by vengeance and bloodlust. Red Rings seek out beings consumed by anger so overwhelming it eclipses their reason. Warriors, destroyers, and wronged souls who would rather burn the universe down than let injustices stand. First up, the lion-headed Egyptian deity Sekhmet. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Sekhmet was the goddess of war, fire, and healing, although her healing only came after she burned a civilization to ash. Created by the sun god Ra to punish humanity for their disobedience, Sekhmet's bloodlust spiraled so far out of control that she nearly wiped out the entire human race. Things became so dire, Ra had to intervene. He knew how desperately she desired to drink the blood of her victims, so he tricked her into drinking vats of beer, dyed red to look like blood, to finally sedate her. A Red Lantern ring would find a perfect host in Sekhmet. She's not just a warrior, she is war incarnate, and with a ring amplifying her fury, she would be an unstoppable cosmic force fueled by divine wrath. And she's already very used to having blood in her mouth. Next, tearing across the skies of Japan is Raijin, the god of thunder, lightning, and storms. Raijin is one of the more chaotic figures in Shinto mythology, often depicted as a fearsome demon-like being beating drums to create thunder. He's wild, unpredictable, and fearsome. In Japan, his wrathful storms were both respected and feared, seen as essential for agriculture but devastating when left unchecked. Legends tell of Raijin's battles against demons, humans, and even fellow gods, his destructive tantrums a necessary part of natural order. A red ring would heighten his chaotic nature to apocalyptic levels, turning every storm cloud into a weapon of rage and every drumbeat into a plasma-charged explosion of hate. And lastly, the Morrigan is a shape-shifting Celtic goddess associated with war, fate, and death. A figure whose presence alone was seen as a total guarantee of doom. She often appears before battles to foretell the slaughter to come, sometimes taking the form of a crow perched on a battlefield silently awaiting death. In Irish myths, like the Tanbo Colna, she stokes the fires of war, driving warriors into berserk rages and sealing their bloody fates. She dwells within the hearts of every soldier screaming a deathly battle cry. A Red Lantern ring wouldn't change the Morrigan, it would simply grant her a cosmic stage. With it, she would rain down a rage of endless wars across the universe. Moving on, we have the Orange Lantern Corps, which isn't really a corps at all, it is a one-man army fueled by overwhelming greed. The orange light is the light of avarice, an insatiable hunger to possess everything. Wielders can create entire armies of hard light constructs based on beings they've defeated, essentially enslaving the dead as possessions. But the power is so corruptive that usually only one being at a time can wield it without being destroyed by paranoia and selfishness. Orange rings seek out individuals who not only crave wealth or power, but see everything, people, planets, souls, as property to be owned. If you want it, an orange ring will want you. Up top, the Nordic dragon Fafnir. Fafnir's legend begins not as a dragon, but actually as a dwarf. In Norse mythology, after murdering his father to seize a cursed treasure hoard, Fafnir's greed transforms him into a monstrous, fire-breathing dragon. He withdrew from the world, sleeping atop his gold until the hero Sigurd finally slew him, and he became the basis for every treasure-hoarding dragon myth in the centuries that followed, including including Smaug from The Hobbit. Fafnir's transformation shows how greed can consume a soul entirely, turning ambition into monstrosity. An orange ring would adore Fafnir. It would feed his obsession, letting him create entire constructs of treasure hoards, armies of spectral dragons, and kingdoms made purely of gold, all guarded by the most possessive being the universe has ever seen. My next pick is Duryodhana, one of Hindu mythology's most infamous antagonists. From the legendary Indian epic Mahabharata, Duryodhana was the oldest of the 100 sons of King Dhritarashtra. This prince was ambitious, jealous, and utterly consumed by his sense of entitlement. Duryodhana orchestrated the greatest war in Indian myth, ousting his cousins from their rightful place as royalty and manipulating his family into killing one another, simply because he couldn't accept sharing power. Even after losing everything, he clung to his pride and his claim over his kingdom until he died. An orange lantern ring would amplify Duryodhana's tragic hunger for dominance, allowing him to command a ghostly army of warriors built from greed, spreading conflict not just across India, but across galaxies. But my last pick for an orange ring is less of a villain and more of an appreciated character, the spider god Anansi. Anansi the trickster is one of the most beloved figures in West African folklore, often portrayed as clever, mischievous, and endlessly ambitious. Among his many feats, Anansi once tricked the sky god Niame into giving him dominion over all stories, a cosmic act of theft based purely on the need to own all the world's knowledge. Or that one time, he killed his own grandmother and extorted a local bartender out of his gold by pinning the murder on him. Okay, that one might not seem very silly, but I promise it's meant to be funny in the story. The point is, an orange ring wouldn't create a monster out of Anansi, but it would turn his cleverness into something terrifying, an unstoppable weaver of greed who ensnares civilizations not just through lies, but through desire. Speaking of terrifying, it's time we discuss the Yellow Lanterns, the Sinestro Corps, which draws its power from fear. Yellow rings harness the terror others feel, allowing their wielders to create constructs born from their victims' worst nightmares. A powerful yellow lantern dominates enemies, bending entire civilizations into submission through sheer dread. Fear is both the weapon and the shield of this corps. Yellow rings seek out those who not only inspire fear, but master it, so tyrants, monsters, leaders, and legends whose names alone can freeze armies in their tracks. You don't have to be evil to wear a yellow ring, you just have to be terrifying. My first choice, maybe you recognize the name from John Wick, is Baba Yaga. The Slavic Witch of the Woods is a shape-shifting crone who lives in a walking hut and devours those foolish enough to stumble into her domain. She represents the terrifying unpredictability of the unknown wilds, usually taking the image of an old woman. Sometimes she aids heroes, and sometimes she murders them. Her unpredictability and unknowable nature are what make her so scary. A yellow lantern ring would cement her as a universal figure of fear. No world, no civilization could resist the terror of the unknown that she brings. An ancient, cosmic witch who could stalk entire solar systems the way she once stalked travelers through shadowed forests. Next up, in both Hindu and Buddhist traditions, Yama stands as the judge of the dead and ruler of the afterlife. He's depicted as fearsome, with red eyes and a terrifying mace, riding a buffalo straight into battle against souls resisting his judgment. Yama embodies not only death, but the inevitability of cosmic justice. Mortals fear him, not because he's cruel, but because he is inescapable. Of all the fears of the world, perhaps nothing is greater than the shared human fear of death, and Yama represents what happens to those who try to escape it. A yellow ring would crown him the ultimate arbiter of terror, allowing him to project dread across worlds and render the living paralyzed by the certainty of their own doom. And my final choice for the Yellow Lantern Corps is the Weeping Woman La Llorona, one of Latin America's most chilling ghost stories. After drowning her own children in a fit of despair, this ghostly woman wanders riverbanks and darkened streets, wailing and searching for her lost family. Her cries chill the blood, and encountering her spirit is seen as a sign of impending death. Nothing strikes fear into the heart more than catching a glimpse of La Llorona, and knowing what awaits you now. A yellow ring would take her sorrow and weaponize it, allowing her voice to reverberate across the starways, pulling fear straight from the hearts of all who hear her. no place would be safe from her endless, echoing grief. Your only choice would be to face that fear, which leads us to the Green Lantern Corps. Stands atop the emotional spectrum as the ultimate force of willpower. A green ring transforms inner strength into hard light constructs, limited only by your imagination. The stronger your will, the stronger your weapon. Green Lanterns must overcome fear, not by being fearless, but by refusing to yield when that fear strikes. They are the bravest souls in existence, those who face impossible odds, endless darkness, and overwhelming enemies, and always keep fighting. Green Rings choose warriors, protectors, survivors, and leaders who never surrender, no matter how outnumbered they may seem. Which, of course, means there are a lot of mythical figures who would make great Green Lanterns. Because of that, I needed to include a few honorable mentions before we get into my real picks. King Arthur, Hercules, Beowulf, Susanoo, Thor, Horus. I could go on, but we need to focus up here. These next three are my favorite choices to wield the green light of willpower. Fittingly, the first choice is the first ever epic hero, Gilgamesh. Semi-divine king of Uruk, he is the original hero of the world's oldest epic. Arrogant and powerful, Gilgamesh's greatest journey began after the death of his best friend Enkidu. Struck by grief and fear of mortality, he set out to find the secret of eternal life, crossing vast deserts, slaying monsters, and even reaching the gates of the gods themselves. Although he ultimately fails, Gilgamesh's quest transforms him into a wiser, more compassionate king, one who no longer fears death, but accepts it. True willpower isn't about never failing, it's about rising every time you do. A Green Lantern ring would see Gilgamesh as a hero, forged in the fires of despair, tempered into resilience. My next pick is for all you fans of Epic the Musical out there. Odysseus, king of Ithaca and hero of Homer's Odyssey. Wasn't the strongest or fastest of the Greek warriors, but he was the most cunning and enduring. After the Trojan War, it took him 10 brutal years to return home, facing Cyclops, witches, vengeful gods, shipwrecks, and endless temptation. Throughout it all, he never lost sight of his goal: home. Even when trapped for years by the goddess Calypso, offered immortality and paradise, he chose the dangerous journey back to his wife and his kingdom. That dogged perseverance is pure Green Lantern energy, fueled not by brute strength, but by sheer, stubborn endurance. And beyond willpower, Odysseus also has the second greatest tool of a Green Lantern: imagination. He always comes out on top due to his incredible wit and cunning. With a ring that creates everything he imagines, he'd be unstoppable. Finally, my favorite choice, and perhaps one of the most influential mythical figures ever, Sun Wukong of the Chinese legend Journey to the West. Better known as the Monkey King, Wukong is one of the greatest trickster heroes in world mythology. Born from stone and trained in both martial arts and magic, he became so powerful that he defied heaven itself, battling gods, demons, and cosmic forces without ever losing his defiant spirit. Imprisoned under a mountain by Buddha for centuries, his will never broke. During his grand journey west, Sun Wukong guards his companions with ferocious loyalty and endless ingenuity. A green ring would barely need to coax him into service. His entire life is a testament to willpower, rebellion, and the refusal to kneel to any authority. But that's enough excitement for a minute. Let's reel things back, just chill out. The Blue Lantern Corps is powered by hope, the most passive yet paradoxically most powerful emotion. Blue rings heal the wounded, neutralize Red Lantern rage, and supercharge Green Lanterns to new heights. However, a blue ring alone cannot unleash its full potential unless near a Green Lantern, because hope without action is just a dream. Blue rings seek out those who embody faith during the bleakest moments, those who believe not because they see the light, but because they choose to be that light. Martyrs, visionaries, and stubborn optimists are the heart of the Blue Corps. Remember how I said it took Odysseus 10 years to return home? Well, that was after fighting in Troy for 10 years before that, and that entire 20 years, his wife Penelope never lost hope that he'd return to her one day. Penelope is the ultimate example of quiet, stubborn hope. For 20 years, she resisted the advances of suitors who insisted her husband Odysseus was dead. Every night, she unraveled the burial shroud she pretended to weave, delaying remarriage with patience and cunning. Even when her own family urged her to move on, she held fast to her belief that Odysseus would return one day. In a world where women were often powerless, Penelope turned her hope into an active rebellion against despair. A blue ring would find her in a wellspring of enduring faith strong enough to move mountains or wait out the gods. Instead of holding great hope, my next pick is someone who inspires great hope in others. Among the Lakota and other Plains tribes of Native American legend, the White Buffalo Calf Woman is a sacred bringer of prophecy, peace, and renewal. She taught the people the 7 sacred ceremonies, promising that when times were darkest, she would return and restore harmony. Her appearance as a white buffalo is itself a symbol of impossible hope, a reminder that even when suffering and division seem endless, peace can still be born anew. A blue lantern ring would recognize her immediately, illuminating her spirit with the purest, gentlest light. She's a symbol of hope. She is hope embodied. And my last choice is a hero who held great hope and inspired hope in others. Bran the Blessed, a giant and king from Welsh mythology. He was a protector of his people, and his story centers around ultimate sacrifice. During a disastrous battle against Irish invaders, the giant Bran's wounded body became a literal bridge for his human-sized army, laying himself down so others could cross to safety. He chose to believe that his people would survive in the future without his giant's might, so he could save them here and now. Even after his death, his severed, still living head continued to offer wisdom and protection to those British peoples who came seeking it. Bran's selflessness and optimism, even in death, make him a perfect blue lantern. His legacy is a beacon of hope, reminding us that some leaders serve their people even after the grave has claimed them, a metaphor for how a great man's legacy can live on long after he passes. But unfortunately, for every great man, there are 1,000 despicable ones. The Indigo tribe harnesses the power of compassion, but unlike the other corps, they don't recruit the compassionate, they recruit the monstrous and heartless, overwhelming them with forced empathy. Indigo rings allow their users to teleport across space and even mimic the powers of other rings nearby. It's a strange core, functioning almost like a cosmic rehabilitation. Indigo rings seek out the cruelest, most vicious beings, those whose natural instincts are domination, violence, or apathy, and remake them into servants of mercy. Compassion isn't just a feeling here, it's an iron-shackled mandate. I do want to give an honorable mention to everyone's favorite Greek asshole, Atreus, who hated his brother so much that he fed him his own children. Yeah, kinda brutal, but that's what we're dealing with for this corps. First up, Huitzilopochtli, the Aztec god of war and the sun, demanded a steady diet of human hearts to keep the sun burning. Entire civilizations were built around his blood sacrifices, and if you know anything about these brutal Aztec ceremonies, this was the guy they were doing it for. As one of the most merciless deities, he embodies domination through violence and demands that mentality of his worshippers. A sudden infusion of compassion from an indigo ring would rip open the god's consciousness, forcing him to experience the pain of every soul offered in his name. It would be a brutal, wrenching rebirth, turning a being of endless hunger into a savior who defends life rather than consuming it, as the sun becomes a symbol of life and giving once again. Our next psycho is Loviatar, the blind daughter of the god of death. She's the mother of 9 deadly diseases according to Finnish myth. She brings pain, pestilence, and suffering wherever she goes. No prayers are ever meant to be offered to her. She's feared, not loved. Described as the mother of wolves, black in her heart, soul, and visage, she is malice upon humanity. An indigo ring would be her ultimate curse and her salvation. Forced to feel the agony she spreads, Loviatar might turn her powers towards curing rather than cursing, becoming a healer of the very plagues she once unleashed upon the world. Compassion, in her case, would be the most radical transformation of all. And finally, if you play Dungeons & Dragons, you might recognize this one, Tiamat, the dragon goddess of primordial chaos in Mesopotamian mythology. She was the swirling, heartless formlessness at the beginning of the universe, and gave birth to the first generation of gods. But as they represented bits of order amidst her chaos, she later waged war against them after their rebellion. In the Babylonian creation myth, her body becomes the very fabric of the world after her defeat. Tiamat embodies rage, betrayal, and destruction. She is the darkest part of Mother Nature, by definition, completely uncaring. But she also represents creation itself. An indigo ring would twist her story towards healing, forcing the ancient mother of monsters to feel sorrow for her lost children and the devastation she wrought. It's poetic and kind of terrifying to imagine such raw cosmic force turned towards empathy. Of course, empathy is just the stepping stone to a deeper emotion, love. The star sapphires wield that violet light, arguably the strongest and most chaotic of emotions. Violet rings allow their users to create crystalline constructs that can bind, defend, or trap others, often laced with deep emotional resonance. The sapphires grow stronger together as love is amplified when shared. The rings don't discriminate between pure, noble love and obsessive, destructive love. If your heart burns strong enough for another, the violet light will find you. Lovers, guardians, and fanatics all have a place among the sapphires. Now, I do have two honorable mentions, both of which I'm not making my final picks because they are Greek, and I'm doing my best to get an even spread of characters from all across the world, but I needed to mention them. Orpheus, the lover boy who descended into hell to retrieve his boo Eurydice, but couldn't resist taking a peek at her and ended up losing her forever. And Calypso, the goddess who trapped Odysseus for years, keeping him from his wife because she really wanted some of Odie's OD, if you know what I'm saying. With those two out of the way, let's get to the real picks. In Egyptian mythology, Isis is a goddess of magic, healing, and motherhood, and above all, devotion. When her husband Osiris was murdered and scattered across Egypt by the jealous Set, Isis didn't dwell in sorrow or revenge. Instead, she embarked on an epic quest to gather the pieces of Osiris and resurrect him. She restored Osiris to life, at least partially, and conceived their son Horus, setting in motion the restoration of cosmic order. Isis's love is so powerful that it transcends death, time, and betrayal. She channels love into divine resurrection, bending reality to her will for the sake of those she loves. A violet ring would amplify her protective, nurturing energy to stellar levels. Next up, Freya is one of the most complex and beloved deities in Norse mythology, a goddess of love, beauty, war, and death. She embodies both the tender aspects of love and its ferocious protectiveness. She was married to the wandering god Oder, and after he disappeared in his travels, she searched for him for years, crying golden tears for her lost husband. Freya rides a chariot drawn by cats, commands the Valkyries, and divides the slain warriors with Odin himself, taking half of them in her never-ending pursuit of her missing spouse. Love in Freya's mythos isn't passive, it's an active, militant force. A violet ring would enhance both her nurturing and her warrior instincts, making her the ultimate seeker of that which she loves, even if it means battling gods. And lastly, Orihime is the weaver princess from East Asian lore, separated from her beloved Hikoboshi by the gods. The entire expanse of the sky, the Milky Way, keeps the two apart from one another. She's only allowed to reunite with her love once a year during the Tanabata festival. Their story is one of enduring devotion against impossible odds, a love that persists across the stars. In both Chinese and Japanese traditions, their longing is so profound it shapes the heavens themselves. A violet ring would resonate perfectly with Orihime's endless patience, sorrow, and joy. Her love endures through separation, loneliness, and time itself, shining with the purest light of the emotional spectrum. But now that we've covered the entirety of the spectrum, what lies at the end when no light is left shining? The Black Lantern Corps embodies the absence of life, the final void where no emotion survives. Black rings reanimate the dead as twisted zombies of their former selves, draining the emotional spectrum from the living to fuel an endless army of decay. Wielders of the black light don't fight for power or love or anger, they exist only to extinguish. Black rings seek out the dead, the forgotten, the better remnants of life, or beings so consumed by death that they willingly become agents of annihilation. To wear black is to be death made flesh. I do want to give an honorable mention to Izanami, the Japanese goddess of creation who was twisted into a disfigured arbiter of death after she died during childbirth. She represents the descent from life into death, but these next three have always been prophets of death alone. In Zulu folklore, the Tokolosh is a malevolent spirit created through dark sorcery to cause illness, death, or mischief. Often invisible to adults but horrifyingly real to children, Tokolosh are short, ugly water spirits. They look like goblins. They slip through cracks and crevices to enter homes, bringing death and terror in the middle of the night. They're known to choke you out with their long, bony fingers or leave scratches on children's bodies to be discovered in the morning. It's a symbol of unseen, creeping mortality, of the deaths that approach in the darkness without warning or mercy. A black ring would turn the Tokolosh into something far worse, a virus of death, slipping between worlds, extinguishing life wherever fear and neglect have weakened the light. It wouldn't storm the gates, it would seep through them. Next, Anko is death's quiet servant in Breton and Welsh folklore, a gaunt figure in tattered cloak, sometimes a skeleton, driving a rickety cart piled high with corpses. Wherever Anko appears, death soon follows, not because he kills, but because he senses that death is coming. He isn't evil, he doesn't end lives, he simply collects. But if given a black ring, Anko's passive role would become an active one. Instead of gathering the dead, he would cause death, riding across worlds with skeletal armies at his side, harvesting souls in endless waves. Cold, impartial, inevitable, Anko would turn from death's messenger into its unstoppable general. And lastly, Ixtab, the Mayan goddess of presides over a realm reserved for those who died by their own hand, an honorable death in certain contexts of Maya belief. She's depicted hanging from a noose, serene rather than malevolent, but in the cold light of a black lantern ring, her compassion would twist into hunger. No longer a gentle guide, Ixtab would become an active harvester of souls, her noose extending across worlds, luring the desperate and the hopeless towards annihilation. A goddess of death who once offered peace would become an architect of oblivion. And in the deepest, darkest depths of oblivion, only the purest of light can shine. At the far end of the emotional spectrum lies the White Lantern Corps, the embodiment of life itself. A white ring draws on every emotion to ignite creation, rebirth, and healing. White lanterns can revive the dead, purify corrupted beings, and bend reality to sustain existence. A single white ring can wipe out entire legions of undead black lanterns, but mastering the white light requires balance, a full understanding and acceptance of all emotions, not just one. White rings seek out those who have experienced death, loss, hope, rage, and love, and still choose to embrace life. They are the rarest heroes, creators who say yes to the universe even after knowing its darkest truths. My first choice, best friend of Mesopotamian hero Gilgamesh, is the mighty Enkidu. His story begins in wildness. Created by the gods to humble Gilgamesh, Enkidu was a gigantic hairy beast man who started as a creature of the untamed earth, running with animals. But through his friendship with Gilgamesh and integration into human society, he becomes a figure of compassion, loyalty, and bravery. His journey from beastly foe to best of friend is a perfect example of a White Lantern's journey to learn and master the emotional spectrum, and his death is the catalyst for Gilgamesh's epic quest, teaching humanity's greatest hero the meaning of loss and life's fragility. A white ring would honor Enkidu's role as the bridge between nature and civilization, instinct and intellect, celebrating him as a soul who embodied life in all of its messy, painful, beautiful complexity. My second pick, a Greek woman whose beauty rivaled even Aphrodite, Psyche endured a journey of transformation through suffering. After winning the heart and love of god Eros, she is set against impossible trials by a jealous Aphrodite, sorting seeds, stealing golden wool, and descending into the underworld itself. Despite betrayal, fear, and death, Psyche endured all of it, and her final reward? Immortality among the gods. Her name literally means soul, and her story teaches that perseverance, love, and the courage to face death lead to transcendence. This is the exact journey of a White Lantern, mastering the soul to ascend mortality to godlike power. A white ring would see her as the perfect vessel, someone who lived every facet of the emotional spectrum and emerged more radiant than ever. And finally, there's a reason he's expecting a thank you. Polynesian trickster demigod Maui. Maui is a larger-than-life character who defines what it means to reshape the world for the better. In Pacific Islander myths, Maui was abandoned by his mother, rejected by humanity, but chose to dedicate his life to helping others anyway. He stole fire from the gods for humanity, slowed the sun to lengthen the day, fished entire islands out of the sea, and even attempted to defeat death itself so humans could live forever. He was constantly trying to bring light to the lives of the people he wanted to accept him. Though he ultimately failed in his final task to defeat death, his endless efforts to empower and improve humanity mark him as a champion of life. A white ring would transform Maui into the ultimate cosmic trickster hero, someone who laughs in the face of death and reshapes galaxies with a wink and a grin. I love Maui as a White Lantern, but not as much as my White Lantern picks for the Corps of anime characters or from Marvel Comics. If you want to see who I picked for them, you can watch my entire Lantern Corps series right here. Stay frosty.